He said, so you've got the money from the trust. That is your estate. And we're going to play the game with your estate. He said, do you know much about trust funds? I said, to be honest with you, I don't know very much at all. He said, well, let me explain. You see, when you have a trust, there's a fund, and it's set up by the trustee, in this case, by the Treasury, the government, the Treasury. They've put in this money. Now, in order for a trust to work, there must be two other people in it. There's three maximum, you see. There is the beneficiary, the person that the trust is set up for, which in your case is you. This money that's been put into is yours to do whatever you like with. Oh, I said, that's very nice, thanks very much. He said, but there is also somebody who must administer that, the executor. So the executor is the one who will make sure that things are paid or that you can withdraw money for what you need. And he said, of course, when you're a baby, you cannot be the executor because you are a minor. So until you reach the age of majority, which is 18, your parents would be the executor. They would administer the trust for you, set up by the government. He said, the only thing is, the government, a bit canny like this, they don't actually tell your parents. And so your parents can't tell you that when you're 18, the age of majority, that you could now be the executor. So you go through life feeling that you have no money. You feel that you're a debtor, that you're constantly in debt, that you have to get a job because you need money to pay for the things you need. And yet all the time, there is this trust fund that as you go through life and you get older and the longer it's in there, the more money that it is accruing all the time. There could be, by the time you die, millions upon millions, maybe 50 million pounds are sitting in this trust, unused. He said, in theory, you could walk into a wonderful showroom of Rolls-Royce vehicles. You could, in theory, go up and say, that one, is that the most expensive Rolls-Royce? How much is that? It could be £1 million. You say, at the age of 18. I think I'll have that because I'm in credit. You've got this trust fund. I said, oh. He said, all you need to do is autograph the credit note and the car is yours. But of course, the man who's selling you the car will say, hang on a minute, I don't understand. And you'll simply just say, well, take this credit note that I have now put my autograph on, take it to the Treasury, and they will dip into my trust fund and pay you. You'll get your money perfectly fine because I'm in credit. Look at the game. You have this big pile of money. I've just given it to you. That is your trust fund. He said, but in the game of Monopoly, as we go around and you get penalties and you earn money, he said, when you get a penalty, what do you do? I said, well, just pay it out of this money. He said, yes, that's what you should do in life. But in life, you don't go to your trust fund. You pay it out of the money you've got a job and your hard-earned job. You've got this hard-earned cash, real money that you're paying for all the bills and all the taxes, your council tax, your road tax, your fuel tax. You're paying your inland revenue tax, all the taxes you're paying out of your own hard-earned money. And yet you don't need to. You've got this rather plush trust fund, he said. He said, look at it, you can see it. And in the game of Monopoly, that is what you do. And I said, oh, yes, I see. He said, but the money is there. He said, yes, but because they don't tell you that you are the executor of the trust, you don't know. You just think you're in debt all the time and you're having to borrow money to buy a house and you get a mortgage and you're paying it all back. You could have got it straight from the trust and not had the bother. I said, wow. He said, but through life, just as you play on this game of Monopoly, there are hazards. And every now and again, because you've not earned enough or you fell behind with your payments or the interest rates have gone up or the way the legal system has worked, it seems to be always against you. You drive your car and you get into a penalty area and there's an infringement, or you park your car and there's a parking ticket, all these sort of things, and you haven't got the money because you haven't worked hard enough or whatever it is. You could end up with summonses to a court. He said, do you know what a court is? A magistrate's court? And I said, well, yes, I've got an idea. He said, it's just the legal department of the Treasury. They want to make sure that you pay the bills, the infringements or the tickets and all of this. And so they'll administer it. So they'll have a convener, which they call a judge, at the magistrate's court, because all court sessions, all legal things start in a magistrate's court. I said, oh, yes. And you'll be summoned there. Now, of course, if you know that you're the executor, you can just tell them to say, well, just pay it out of the trust fund. But you don't know that, so you end up going to court. And the first thing that happens at court is, of course, they will say something like, for the record, state your name. And this is where the trick is played on you. Because you don't know who you are, you will say, my name is Richard Vobes. And at that moment, they've got you. Because effectively what's happened is you've said, I'm the top hat, or the dog, or the train, or the iron. You've become the player of the game. You've become the fiction, because their world can only work on the fiction. A real living man cannot enter a real court. They cannot deal with you. So they have to get you to be the legal fiction. And so what happens then is they become the executive, they become the sole beneficiary, and you become a legal representative of the trust, but you end up paying out of your own money. So what you should do, of course, is tell them the truth, because you're not a capitalized version of your name. You're not the top hat. You're not the character that's playing the legal game. Of course you're not. You're a real living man. You're the executor of the estate of the top hat, or the capitalization, the persona of your living man. That's who you are, just as in Monopoly. So you would say, well, I'd like to introduce myself. I am the executor and the sole beneficiary of the estate of Richard Vobes, the legal persona. But I am the executor. And as there is only 3 people that can be in a trust, it means the judge or the prosecutor or the Crown Court, the clerk of the court, is the trustee. The role can switch around depending on who is taken the role, but one of them will have that role. They will in fact have a checkbook ready to pay should you announce who you are. Of course, most people don't, because they don't know, because this is the greatest secret, he said. But once you've announced who you are, and you say, well, I'm the executor of the estate, I'm the executor, I'm the one who controls and administers the top hat,